What's up, baseball fans? Ryan Kostrowski, Matt Bellman here to do another live mock draft for you. About 2.5 minutes away from this bad boy kicking off. Last time we tried this, I forgot to look at it, so we were in a little bit of a hurry. So at least today we can intro. If you guys want in for a full DFS season, pricing is up at the website. Description section is below. Also, anybody willing to give the thumbs up, sincerely appreciated. And we'll be out doing baseball videos all spring and all season long. Easiest way to get more of them, press that red button that says subscribe.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to one of my buddies, and whose his father-in-law is like a fantasy football guy, and he was telling me they already did their fantasy football draft for the next year coming up. And I don't think sitting over here, I'm about to make a fantasy baseball mock draft. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand why anybody would want to do football for it. I get it if you don't watch other sports, but come on now, diversity.
That's insane, right?
It's just pointless. There's no draft. There's no free agency.
It's pointless. I agree. So we're on the same page there.
All right. So you look like you got pick 4.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even enter the draft yet. I'm entering it right now. I do have pick 4.
Okay. We'll start. I mean, this is our third time doing that this year. It's really a great opportunity to talk baseball. We'll probably have some of these guys. It's a mock draft. This is a free league that doesn't even exist. It's just a way to practice. That's how you get a great hold of things, though, guys. I mean, you should be doing multiple mock drafts throughout the preseason or drafting free leagues.
It seems like, pointless, and you can just do it when, you're drafting. But really, it really makes you hone in on who you like, and it makes drafting just an easier process. Like, I completely agree with you.
And you get a feel for where other people are going.
Yep.
Even though this one will probably end up with half the guys on auto draft, gives us an opportunity to talk it over. And we'll bring this one up again. We brought it up last time. Mookie Betts is great. JD's great. Nolan's great. Don't draft anybody but Mike Trout with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, the question for me is all those guys. See, I like picking 4th because 4th is about the same as 2nd or 3rd to me. Betts is definitely 2nd. A lot of the middle is kind of the same. 3 through 6, I should say, is very similar.
Yeah, I was going to actually say I think you can drop down to 5 and say that if you're going to pick 2nd, you might as well pick 5th and grab Nolan Arenado because we like all those guys. I guess it just depends on what you want to do with position flexibility.
I'll take Arenado over JD.
For Nolan Arenado, I think there is a dip.
What'd you say?
I think.
Yeah, I agree with
you. Okay. I like Scherzer. I like Turner. I like my boy Yelich. You guys know I'm a big-time Brewers fan, but I'm sorry. I can't take Christian Yelich with the same confidence that I can take a Nolan Arenado. Yelich was amazing down the stretch last year, but that was like a hot 2.5, 3 months. And while he'll probably hit 25 home runs this year and steal 25 bases, it's not the same thing.
Scherzer went 1.
Yeah, that's why this is a joke of a draft, guys. It's a mock draft. We're here for talking points. This is not a competitive league.
No, I wish it was, though.
So, again, Trout's number 1. And then I tend to be pretty close with Ramirez, JD, and Nolan Arenado. I don't think you can go wrong. If you have a personal preference, go for it. But a lot of that's going to be luck. You can tell. It's pick 3 and Trout hasn't gone yet. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I like Arenado as my 3rd guy overall after Trout and Betts, but Betts is a lock here at 4.
If you get Betts at 4, be happy that you started off your season with a good spot.
Yeah, like you're already at an advantage if it works out like that. It's not going to work out like that, though.
Great hitter, great ballpark, great teammates around him. Not only that, everybody in the AL East plays in a good hitting ballpark with the exception of Tampa, which isn't even the worst thing in the world. But you now play the majority of your games in good ballparks because Fenway, Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards, and Rogers Center are all major advantages to the hitter.
Yep. What team are you?
I'm number 8.
Boss?
It's actually Bellman's boss. I thought I'd put it just to mess around and have some fun on here, but it doesn't show the whole thing.
Fortunately for you, it doesn't.
All right. So we've talked up some of these guys already, and we'll just reiterate a few points we brought up. We love Trey Turner this year. I think he is appropriately ranked. We expect him to run more, assuming Bryce Harper signs with Philly or LA or San Francisco.
One thing we haven't really touched on, because neither of us draft them this high, is our starting pitcher rankings at the top. So I do think it's Scherzer, then Sale, then DeGrom. Do you see it like that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, though, too, with pitching being so volatile. I would take Scherzer first, and then I would probably agree with that. And it depends, too, do you get values for wins? Because DeGrom loses a little bit value in a win league. But if it's just quality starts, Jacob DeGrom's as good as they come right now. I can definitely side with him being second over Sale.
Yeah, but in like a wins league, like I'm in a league that really wins are held to a really high standard. You can make the argument for a guy like Kluber over DeGrom. Speaking of Kluber, what's your take on him this year?
I think Corey Kluber is somebody who would never end up on one of my teams. And the big thing was we saw a lot of regression with the strikeout last year.
Yeah.
And really, he's only got 2 elite seasons.
Dude,
other than that, he's just been a good pitcher.
I know, but we talked about how baseball works out like that. You know what I mean? In statistics, not oftentimes, but sometimes.
All right, so I'm up right now, and I've already talked about how I love Yelich. But for me, this becomes a toss-up between Altuve, Machado, and Lindor as I want to load up in the middle infield. And I think that I love Altuve, who was the number 2 overall pick last year. Machado going to San Diego doesn't do a lot for me. I think that hurts him. Like if he'd ended up somewhere else, I would have liked him more. And I would probably take Lindor over Altuve overall. But I don't like picking a guy that has an injury this early. I get more scared of him potentially re-aggravating something or it causing another injury as he overcompensates, which we know athletes do. But I would, if injury wasn't an issue, put Lindor above Altuve.
Agreed. And my thing about Machado is I wouldn't be surprised if we talk about guys that are drafted in like the 9th round that could have 5th round value. I wouldn't be surprised if he's drafted in the 2nd round and puts up 10th round value. Not kidding.
You expect him to put on some weight and stuff like that. I get that. He seems like a guy who could live fat and happy off of his contract. And at San Diego, it's not a great place to hit. His teammates around him aren't that good.
No.
His peripherals aren't going to bump up. It's a bad place
Hitting
for
in the National League. It's harder to begin with. I like it for him, but honestly, like I don't expect a ton from him his first year. He was not that good for the Dodgers.
All right, so I still think the argument could be made for Machado or Lindor here. I already grabbed the second baseman. I love solidifying my middle infield early on. And everybody right here, Acuna, Baez, Lindor, Machado, all have good reasons behind them. I'm going to go with Baez right here because of the position flexibility and because it's a free
You're that
draft.
scared of Lindor's injury, huh?
It does give me cause for pause. I have not read a ton about it. Tell us a little bit more about it because he is a top fantasy player.
So if you want to click on him, and I'm sure that the ESPN write-up can so just so we can see it. If you want to click on it on the draft, I'm not even looking at that. Sorry. So I don't know. It's a hurt calf, which obviously I'm not sure the extent of how hurt it is. But from everything I've heard Terry Francona say, it's like he might miss like a few days to begin the season, but it's not going to be anything serious. I don't know. I guess I don't know too much about it either. But
okay. I get worried about soft tissue injuries. Now, my quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, has dealt with a calf issue on and off for a couple different seasons, and it really limits his mobility. I worry about Lindor potentially straining that with all the stealing. A lot of his value comes with the ability to be a power and a stolen base guy. Again, he could easily be awesome, and I could totally be wrong. It's happened a million times before. It'll happen a million times again. But if I really like Machado and I really like Baez, it's enough for me to like make the coin flip call right there.
Yeah, and I'm on the clock right now, so you're kind of scaring me off Lindor, but the value is getting real for him right here.
And Machado too. Like we talk shit about Machado, but you can get Machado in the 2nd round. I get that. Yeah,
one guy I'm going to take right here though that I think it's only fallen because he's still a free agent. That if he ends up in Philadelphia, this guy's the front runner for NL MVP right now, even though he's not on a team. Bryce Harper.
I am not a big Harper guy compared to some other people, but that's drafting Harper in round 2 versus drafting him number 3 overall. That's a big difference to me. I get that pick, especially if he ends up in Philly. Small ballpark, ball flies out of there. They do lose some hitting value a little bit. The batter's eye in Philly is not very good. It's why it's not even more of a hitter's park, but man, Bryce Harper could do some damage in that park.
I mean, Betts, Harper, that outfield, those could be the number 1 and 2 players in all fantasy this year. I'm not saying that they will be, but it's possible. Those are 2 of those type players.
Definitely. So just to go back to the Baez pick a little bit too, I am huge on position flexibility. As your season progresses and guys get hurt, having a guy like Baez who, head to head, I would take Machado or Lindor over him. But the fact that he can play 2nd, 3rd, or shortstop and you can move him around all season depending on where your injuries rack up, I don't think it'd be understated for your value in an MLB team.
Agreed. It means a ton, especially when a player's that good and he's always making your lineup because it just makes it so much easier to fill in around him because you can go a lot of different directions.
And I'm a believer in his talent, and I also think if you see a bounce-back season from Chris Bryant, that this offense could be even better.
Agreed. I got to take Lindor right here, though.
Absolutely.
It's just too real because even missing a little bit of time with injury, you got to expect that he's going to be, at least really good, if not as good as he was last year, which was amazing when he plays. And shortstop, the value is just too real.
If healthy, he's top 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because of the short start eligibility. Speaking of shortstops, I've already grabbed a couple of them, so I don't need a middle infield, but I also know that in my back pocket, Baez can play third. I mean, we like Trevor Story a lot. And I also like Chris Bryant right here, who offers me dual eligibility. I'm looking for a big bounce back season from Chris Bryant. So I'm a little torn right here between Story and Bryant. I think you could go one of either way, but I do think that everybody on this page right here, those would be my top 2. So I'm going to grab Chris Bryant, throw him in that third base spot. But the argument for Trevor Story is legit. And Bryant's another one of those guys. I mean, this guy was a first rounder the last couple of years. Now you get him in round 3.
Yeah, this is so true. He's another guy. He fits my team model for sure. Like that pick quite a bit. And, you might get Story still coming up.
And I think he fits our model specifically for both of us. Pick guys who were injured last year. They're getting totally devalued. Guys get hurt. Doesn't mean they're going to be hurt this year.
100% agree. I loved Chris Bryant in drafts this year. I love that pick.
Right. And so the other thing, we've talked about position flexibility. So now I got Baez and Chris Bryant, and I got Jose.
Okay, so hold on. I just want to say one thing about Bryant real quick. So you talked that the value on Machado is real. I think Bryant has a much better year than Machado this year.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, those are 2 of the better players in baseball. You're just not a big believer in Manny Machado's intangibles, which I completely understand.
Okay, fair enough. Go down to your point.
The position flexibility. Now that I have elite players in Baez and Bryant with third, outfield, double third, second base, and shortstop eligibility. So as the fuckery begins throughout the season and guys start going down with injuries, this gives me so much flexibility. And it always has me keying in on Whit Merrifield right there that I can move into the outfield. And I mean, talk about having your middle infield racked up, but you can still move these guys around. That's going to create a lot of flexibility for me.
I believe the technical term is fuck yeah.
So that being said, I like Whit right here, and it'll be good for my stolen bases and runs. See if there's anybody else I should be looking at. Kind of looking at Benintendi as well. And actually, you know what? I'm going to make a leap just so we can talk about him. I do think Harper has a good high probability of ending up in Philly.
Oh, don't do it to
me. I think Rhys Hoskins is going to be an absolute steal this year in round 5. I think every possibility of being a first-round type of production this year.
I love him this year.
We both love him this year, so we're in full agreement on that one.
Yeah, I would have definitely snagged him coming up.
All right, so Hoskins hit a little bit of that sophomore slump last year that's really typical of young, talented players. Not the whole year, though. We saw him look really good at points, and then we saw him have bad parts. So I'm going to grab Hoskins right here. We are both gigantic fans of his. A better lineup around him, Segura on base, bring in a veteran leader like Andrew McCutchen, potentially Bryce Harper. You got other guys in this team developing. I mean, Hoskins is back to his original position. He's a guy who might give you dual eligibility. I mean, he's got everything I want.
And he definitely fits the model I like third-year guys a lot better than second-year guys. So I'll definitely take a guy like Hoskins and Bellinger over an Acuna even.
So the point that, just to acquiesce upon what Matt was saying, is that baseball's got its ups and downs. Rookies come in, pitchers don't know them, they crush. Second year, pitchers figure out their weak zones, figure out this guy can't hit sliders, this guy has trouble with the fastball high and tight. Takes another year for the hitters to readjust, figure out their weak zones, and get better. That's why third-year players oftentimes, that's their big jump year. And it makes a lot of sense. Injury guys and third-year players.
Yeah, it's not always, but I mean, a lot of times it works out that way, and it's a lot of averages, right?
Right. In football, it used to be third-year wide receivers. Now, guys have progressed over the last 10 years. Now it's second-year wide receivers.
Yeah. So I'm about to be on the clock here, and honestly, there's really no one, jumping out at me. I think I'm going to go with Trevor Bauer. I like Merrifield, and I think he's fine, but he doesn't jump off the page to me here. So I'm going to go with Bauer and kind of build that ace in the staff.
High strikeout guy, developing stud. The point for Merrifield, I think it's going to be a personal preference for people. How do you value the stolen base?
Exactly.
If you are in a roto league and you want to knock off about a fifth of your steals, you can do that with Whit Merrifield. He's not going to do great for you in other categories, but he's going to hit for a decent average. He's going to score some runs. He'll give you dual eligibility. But if you're trying to knock out some of those stolen bases, you know the dude's going to run for a team that has no power, plays in the big ballpark.
And I am a big Bauer fan, and I think he's definitely the best pitcher left on the board. So I'm more than fine taking him, in the 4th round there.
All right, so you'll be coming up again here in about 5 or 6 picks. Is there anybody right here you're looking at?
Well, Bellinger was the guy I was looking at, but of course he just went off the board. I don't think if I didn't already have outfielders, Benintendi would be in play for me, and I kind of like going Benintendi and Betts. I'm thinking about doubling up and going Carrasco here and going with Bauer and Carrasco.
Sure. And if Benintendi slips to me, I couldn't grab him fast enough.
Yeah, so if it wasn't 2 outfielders deep, he would be a lock for me. I'm still considering him, either him or my order goes Carrasco, then Benintendi.
What we like about Benintendi, besides the fact that he can play, he does a little bit of each category. So you're not like when you grab Whit Merrifield, you're going very heavy on stolen bases. Benintendi will hit some home runs. He will steal some bases. He'll hit for a decent average. He'll score runs and get RBIs because he plays in one of the best lineups in baseball. Given the opportunity, always side with picking guys in good offensive lineups.
And I will say that I think Benintendi and Carrasco are like very, very even for like what they are. Like I think that they're very appropriately ranked right next to each other. I think they're very close.
Does Rendon seem too far up there for you? Because he does for me.
Yes, he does. No Bryce. Yeah, no Bryce Harper protection. Are we just underrating him? Like I'm not sure.
No, I'm not. I don't think so. He doesn't hit. He's not a huge power hitter. He'll hit some home runs. He doesn't steal any bases. I mean, he just doesn't do a lot to fill up the peripheral categories for me. And if you're playing in a roto league, I just don't see him doing anything great.
Agreed. Like I like Trey Turner because I think he runs a lot, but I don't love the Washington offense.
No, we like Soto. We think he's a young, talented hitter. And you want to know what? It's not impossible that Bryce Harper still ends up in Washington. It's not likely, but it's not impossible.
Definitely not. And then I like their offense a lot more. Brian Dozier, et cetera.
And well, don't forget Adam Eaton's back.
Adam Eaton's back. That's true. And, they've got a couple other prospects in the wings. So,
I mean, Eaton is going to crush for all 2 weeks before he gets hurt.
This is true because it always happens. Benintendi went. So there's that.
So you'll grab Carrasco.
I'm interested to know what the Yankees do. And that's my problem with Torres is that they signed DJ LeMahieu. So when Didi's back and with Tulowitzki, what are they going to do?
That's a risk, and I think that is a good reason that if you're in a tiebreaker situation that you would veer somewhere else. For me, Carlos Correa is a no-brainer over Gleyber Torres right there.
Agreed. I'm taking Carlos Carrasco, though.
All right, so I'll be coming up soon. And I do think this is a good spot for me to look at Lorenzo Cain for a couple of reasons. One, because in my mind, I'm always drafting for a roto league. And what I get out of Lorenzo Cain, I get a guy that will score runs. I think the 87 projected runs there is definitely on the low end. I'm not strong in the outfield yet, so that gives me an outfielder. He'll get me some steals. He's not going to hurt you in any category while he won't hit for a lot of power. And also, it gives me some skin in the game on my favorite team, so I got somebody I can root for every day.
All those reasons came into play with me drafting the 2 pitchers I just took. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I view Cain in a very similar regard. I don't think Bauer or Carrasco are going to win me this, made-up league or whatever, just like I don't think Cain is going to win you the league. But he's rock solid here, and he's a cog in the machine.
Yeah, those kind of picks can't be understated. And we talked about this yesterday in a baseball video. Pick safe plays, 1 through 9, and then start swinging for the fences with a lot of home run swings later in the draft.
Exactly. And even you don't like pitching, but you still recognize that you still need to build a pitching staff. So there's something to be said about having 2 guys up top that are a lot of value. Just like I really, right now envy your position flexibility in the middle infield.
All right. So we're back at this one again. for me, I don't know how I can skip Carlos Correa right here. I mean, I've already got Baez and Altuve. I'm just going to solidify my middle infield and know that Carlos Correa's upside is first round. This guy is extremely talented. He's another guy, along with a lot of the Astros that seemed to be resting on their laurels a bit last year, had injury issues. Carlos Correa has every opportunity to be like, if not the best, one of the best middle infielders.
I agree.
So now, all that being said, my middle infield is loaded, but I got to start hitting up some other positions.
Okay, your middle infield is pretty damn loaded, though. That if we could make a trade right now, I'd be interested. Unfortunately, we can't. So a guy that I'm thinking about right here that we haven't touched on a lot that I think could bounce back this year. Now, what is a better lineup, a better team?
Joey Votto.
You know it. Like last year was about as bad as it gets, or was it? What's your take?
Know your league. If you're in an on-base percentage league, then I love Joey Votto because he will single-handedly keep you relevant within that position, that specific category. In a regular average league, I don't like him quite as much.
In a points league, I love him though, man, which is what this is because like those walks count as just as much as a single, and he's like your type of player. Not kidding. In a points league.
So I run a bunch of fantasy baseball leagues.
I'm taking him right here. I need a first.
If anybody's interested, hit me up. But I almost always set them as on-base percentage leagues. And what typically happens is a couple of the newer players don't realize it. A couple of the middle-of-the-road players, one of them will take a look at Votto, and then me and a couple other players who really value what he brings to it, we will end up bidding each other up for him. I usually don't end up with him because somebody will pay way over. But because the ESPN draft site will not adjust for the difference we make in average between OBP, he gets undervalued. Now, unfortunately for me, I play with a couple smart people who know that, and I can't just steal him from the crowd. But he gets way more value in a league that walks give you a lot of value.
Yeah, exactly. A ton more value. And this is the time. And now he's going to score more runs, you'd think. Puig in the lineup. And you'd think he's going to see more pitches to hit. And he's got a very selective strike zone, as we were just talking about the other day. I think Votto will bounce back this year.
Who is Yasiel Puig? Why are we so convinced he's going to be great in Cincinnati? I'm
not so convinced of that.
Okay.
And I didn't mean it like that. I just meant I like what they're doing. I like Scooter. I don't know who else did they add to their lineup. Matt Kemp. I don't know what those guys are, but it sounds flashy, right?
It does, and that's why I was asking because I think a lot of people feel that way that they're going to be a lot better. And I mean, who's Matt Kemp right now? He had some good moments last year, but he fell off in the second half of the year. It's been a while since he'd been good.
So I agree, but I will say, like on paper, a lineup, wherever they're hitting of Scooter, Votto, Suarez, Puig, Kemp, Schebler, like they've got some nice pieces in there.
And they do play in a great lineup to score runs or a great ballpark to score runs.
Yeah, so like there's upside. I could see them like falling flat, like 100% and then sucking. But I also like them. And actually, like that, I was about to just take Suarez anyway. So while we're talking about him, I'm taking Suarez. We both like him a lot.
Love Suarez. What's not to like?
Exactly. So I'm kind of deep in Reds right now, but that's fine.
All right, so I'm coming up quick. And your points on Torres and the fact I have infielders makes me have no need right there. But then I need to start taking –
I was going to say, this is a good point of why we mock draft. Because I remember on the last mock draft, like you kind of talked me into Torres because we didn't even talk about LeMahieu or Tulowitzki at that point. And I've been thinking about that since. So thank you for last time.
All right, I don't have a first baseman yet. And again, this goes back to what we talked about with picking Lorenzo King, guys. The Brewers' offense is getting slept on. I think too many people believe it was a flash in the pan. But they are rock solid 1 through 8. And they have a deep bench so that they can turn it over a couple more times. Instead of getting multiple pitcher at-bats, you're going to see Eric Thames coming up and getting those. I mean, Moustakas and Travis Shaw are going to get time off. A lot of people aren't buying into Jesus Aguilar, but I'm a giant fan of his. Having watched most of his at-bats the last couple of years, this guy can hit. If people want to choose not to buy in, that's on them. I am a big fan, and I think he's a hell of a hitter.
The only thing I'd say is I think you could have gotten him in a pick or two, but, I mean, you do you. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
It's a mock draft, so, I mean, there's nothing to be said for that right now. It's just take who you want.
Yeah, it gave me an opportunity to talk about him because I do think he's getting undervalued. I think there's multiple Brewers this year that are being undervalued in the draft.
There's one guy. This is kind of the downside of how much middle infield flexibility you have. There's one guy right here that I'm going to take that I know you would take right here.
Travis Shaw?
No, Corey Seager.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, other points right here. We brought up starting to build a staff. Right now, I'm going to draft Jamison Tyon. He's another guy probably still undervalued by the public. He's a rock-solid pitcher, continuing to get better. I just need to start knocking out some of my starts. He's not going to win me a league. He's not going to lose it. But it gives me a decent strikeout guy that I can help solidify my staff.
The two guys I wanted just went. So
Murphy and Seager?
Murphy and Seager. So I'm a little bit upset about that. Fulte just went, who I thought you were going to go with. It depends. I don't love Talion in a wins equity league because I don't like the Pirates at all. But he's rock solid, and he's more a your type of guy.
Yeah.
Barrios is more my type of guy right there.
Barrios is more of your swing for the fences. We've seen the good side and the downside. I think Barrios' ceiling is significantly higher. I think Tyon's got the higher floor.
All right. Oh, no. I just left the draft, so it might have auto-picked for me. No, it didn't. Okay. Not. All right. All right. Well, continuing with the Phillies theme, I'm going to do it again because I think the value is real here. And there's another guy I want more, but I'm going to get him with the next pick. So I'm going to take Real Muto right here.
Yeah, I almost went with him too. So no arguments here. Then your boy Sanchez went next. So those are your catchers you like.
Yeah, and then I'm not going to let you get this guy. So I am taking German Marquez next. And I really like the way my staff will be looking.
Yep. We love Marquez. Don't sleep on German Marquez. Do not worry about the fact that he pitches in Coors. He was lights out in Coors. His stuff is electric. German Marquez might end the year with people realizing he is not only a top 10 pitcher, maybe top 5.
I already know that I need to draft him early in my real draft because I'm already tilting right now that he's about to go before me in these 3 auto picks in this mock draft. So, yeah, I need him. I love him this year. I think he could give you round 2 value.
It doesn't matter if you pitch in Coors if nobody can hit the ball hard against you.
Exactly. It also doesn't matter if you pitch in Coors if you're just really good there. Yeah, I agree.
And you strike out everybody.
Yep. All right. I'm going to make this quick. Take Marquez. Oh, my staff is pretty solid. Bauer, Carrasco, Marquez. I'll take that all day.
All right. So I'm back and forth right now between David Dahl and also Jose Barrios. Because I'm not super strong at outfield right now with only Hoskins and Kane, I'll probably take David Dahl, who's a guy we've outlined on an actual individual video. A huge upside this year. Everyday player, hopefully in Colorado. Don't be surprised if David Dahl hits 35 home runs this year.
Agreed. Like him a lot. One guy we haven't talked about at all that's like lumped in right here is Malik Smith. You got a take on him?
What's he in Seattle now?
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of which, my options right now, Barrios just went. So knowing that I do have to draft the occasional pitcher, I did a video on him the other day. That's Zach Wheeler. He was once thought to be one of the up-and-coming studs for the Mets, and then he had 2 years of injury. He was not good 2 years ago. He was a top 5 pitcher in baseball for the second 2/3 of last season. Only had one start where he allowed more than 4 runs in his last 22.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
I'm a bigger fan than you. We'll have some players we disagree upon. You don't hate him. I like him more than you. We'll have plenty of players where that will be our thing.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm up in a couple picks, and honestly, like I don't want to go so deep on this team, but I think the value is really real with Scooter, and I need a second baseman.
Yeah, so Scooter's way too low in the 10th round.
Way too low, man. Like I don't get it. People just won't buy in. He's another guy. People just won't buy in.
So it goes back to being small market teams, and you see it with Milwaukee right now, with a lot of guys thinking that there's no reason that they can replicate. Milwaukee's got better pieces than they did last year. They have all the same guys, plus they're adding some things. But people refuse to believe they can do it. I think that's the same thing with Scooter at Cincinnati. People don't believe that a guy that little can hit the ball that far. And so I just think they keep waiting for the shoe to drop. But that's 2 straight rock-solid seasons. Why do you think this is going to change?
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of the same story with Marquez, man.
Yeah. Well, I think people worry about the Coors Field thing.
True. But I just think it's – aside from the Coors Field thing that people just don't want to buy in because it's the same market.
So if you've watched, and we'll switch over to NBA for a second, if you've watched the Eastern Conference this year, why are people, everybody is still all over Boston's jock and thinking they're the best because they're Boston. But like Toronto, Milwaukee, small market teams, they're 1 and 2 with the best records for a reason. People devalue small market teams.
This is true.
You know, as a Cleveland guy, you can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with it all the time here. So I'm about to kind of go to the reason I didn't take Merrifield is because I figured I'd end up with Alberto Mondesi, and I like him a lot, and I'm going to roll with him right here when I'm up, if he's there.
Looking through these guys, knowing I'm coming up soon.
A lot of guys I have no interest in right here.
Yeah, this is the part of the draft where I start really looking towards pitchers. And now we're going to get into my mantra right here. We talked about third-year players, Luis Castillo. We talked about taking a depth and a good number of pitchers who you feel like if you can hit on half of them, you could have one of the better pitching staffs in baseball. That worked out for me last year. I've had seasons where it hasn't worked out. But I'm looking at Luis Castillo right here in round 11 or projected at 110, who's got all the upside of a guy who could be a top 10, top 15 pitcher this year with the strikeouts. Now, he's young. We've seen him be volatile. He's a guy that could be cut eventually. But I also know he gives me legit like top-end pitching potential. And I'd rather draft bundles of potential and hope to hit on a few of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Castillo's fine as right here. I mean, he's who I would take if I was picking right here.
So, and right below him, you will see Robbie Ray, who was my guy to do this with 2 years ago. And if Ray's there, I might pick him again because I do think he's got a possibility of a bounce-back situation. And sometimes they work out great like Robbie Ray. Sometimes they work out like Luke Weaver last year. You're going to miss on some, you're going to hit on some.
Of course. Just like anything else in life, right?
Exactly. And I will go right back to Robbie Ray if he's still there because at least we know he's going to strike guys out, and he just went. All right, I'm going to grab Wilson Contreras. As you can see, as much as it pains me, I am a believer in the Cubs bounce-back season, and I think he gives you real value. Although right below him, I am kind of thinking that I'm just going to make a quick shift and go to Joey Gallo and take the home runs.
That's what I was going to take. Damn you.
He gives me dual eligibility, and because, again, I draft under the impression that I am in an on-base percentage league because that's where all of my things are. It's different on this mock draft, but he is way more valuable in an on-base percentage league because even though his OBP is not great, it's way better than his average.
This is so true.
Harper to Philly.
No way.
We just got breaking news right now.
Really?
I'm not 100% sure. I just had something come up on my phone.
From where? Yep, agreed. All right, I saw it too. So I'm glad I got him in this league.
Yeah, way to go, Matt. You're crushing this free league. Good thing you loaded up on Philly. But, hey, I grabbed Hoskins, and we were both theorizing that's where he was going to go. So we know now. But if I had done drafts and if you had done drafts prior to this, we were kind of thinking Philly had a good opportunity.
Where would you think Harper goes now? You there? You there? All right, you back?
We're back now? Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think Harper goes and should go in drafts now?
Early round 2.
I agree, but I do think the uncertainty has made him fall a little bit.
Oh, for sure. He's definitely better than 27. And I'm not even a Bryce Harper fan because I'll point out all the statistics that will tell you he's just not as good as people think he's going to be. And we'll even pull those up right now. Oh. Again, I still like him this year, though, based on draft position.
And I'm about to take another guy in that lineup because why not? McCutchen. All those guys get a bump now, to be quite honest.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, McCutchen, too. He's going to play every day. They signed him to a nice deal.
All right, so the points that I wanted to bring up on Bryce Harper were the fact that he had that one great year in 2015 where just dominance, and you saw what we thought he could be. But he's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 8th year in baseball. I know he's not that old yet, but why do we feel like he's necessarily going to get better? And that's why I still stay like early round 2 because I'd still rather draft a Nolan Arenado.
I would too.
You know, he doesn't really steal bases. He's got 75 in his career. He has never driven in. Last year he got 100 runs for the first time. So This could be different, new team. But last year was only the second time he's ever hit over 30 home runs.
Yeah, new team. I don't know. It's hard not to like him here and get excited about it at least a little bit. Alrighty. One thing that we both have ignored, I know that we don't usually touch on it, is relievers. I'm just going to take a look at who's left. There's still a few left. I'm going to go with the guy that you actually made a video on that I like quite a bit, and especially in this type of draft. I'm going to go with Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, love it.
So especially as my last, first base, third base fills right in that mold. I like where my offense sits right now.
So I'm going to bring up a point too. And again, guys, I play mostly roto, so this will be a point I'm going to bring up. If Raciel Iglesias is still there, I'm going to draft him. Now, I don't spend a lot of early round picks on relievers, but if I can get one that I know the position's secure and he's pretty good, I want to make sure I'm at least above the 3 guys who don't draft any relievers in my league. I don't want to battle it out with the guys who all go like 7 deep on like quality relievers because they can have the 9s or the 10s. I just want to make sure I get my 4 or my 5. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
So I don't have to beat everybody. I just those 4 points, like how many? You don't play as much roto as I did. You're more points leagues, but I can't tell you the number of times like the roto league. It comes down to the last day, and 2 points can be a huge difference. So I will solidify one good reliever, and then after that, unless somebody good falls to me, I will wait on relief pitching until much later in the draft.
Yep.
And then I'll draft like 3 or 4 of them at the end. And if 1 or 2 of them ends up with the role, so be it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit upset I haven't drafted one yet. But okay, there's still time.
All right. So you guys see I'm coming back up right here. Catcher is pretty weak.
Let me ask you this. Why do you like Iglesias more than Knebel?
Didn't really specifically love it. I do think his job is more secure, whereas the Brewers will close some games with Hader and Jeremy Jeffress. If Knebel struggles like he did at points last year, Jeremy Jeffress is a very capable reliever. Like it is Iglesias' job. All that being said, I like Knebel, so he was really good. And I'm going to draft Wilson Contreras in a bounce back year.
I thought you already drafted him.
I was gonna, and then I switched to Gallo.
Oh, okay. So it's good
now,
thing you waited.
Yeah, you guys can see like my offense is really set. I need a couple more outfielders, but I know Gallo can move out there. Bryant can move out there. I need a utility spot, but really at this point, I just start focusing in on pitching. And if there's a value outfielder I like, I'll grab him. But it's time to really start getting more guys like Tyon, Weir, Castillo, upside guys who have an opportunity to be good, but get more depth.
Most definitely. I am going to take – we just talked about him, and I need a reliever. I'm going to take Knebel.
Relief pitching can be volatile, which is another reason we don't spend a lot of time drafting closers early. There's only a handful to maybe a dozen closers who are like their jobs are safe.
Yeah.
All right. Start working our way down the draft. And, things start to get ugly. I do like Yasmani Grandal for Milwaukee. Ballpark upgrade. I like Nomar Mazara. That's a guy I would consider taking. And while I'm not a huge Yu Darvish fan, that's a strikeout pitcher that, might have a potential upside in a bounce back season.
I feel like Mazara at some point could break out. We both like him quite a bit. And
he has a great ballpark to hit in. Texas in the summertime, the ball flies out of there.
There's an outfielder I like more that I'm about to take out before you. It's Byron Buxton.
All right. We did a full video on him yesterday. Check it out. Huge potential upside.
Yep.
And we both know this, and we talked about Byron Buxton in length. Byron Buxton has every opportunity to be on the waiver wire 4 weeks into the season. He also has every opportunity to be one of the 15 best outfielders in the league.
This is so true.
And at this point of the draft, we both agree. I would rather go for upside than take a guy like Cole Hamels, where I know exactly what I got. He's an established veteran. I mean, what are the odds Cole Hamels is better this year than he has been the last 5? Like 0, right?
I mean, not 0, because pitchers get better. It seems unlikely, though.
Not guys in their young 30s, though, typically, right?
Yeah, not typically. So it's very unlikely. Agreed.
Another example of that as we move down here would be like John Lester. I like John Lester. I think he's a decent pitcher, but where's the upside, right? Like, we know who John Lester is, and he's probably not at any point going to start getting better.
This is true.
Dallas Keuchel would be another one. Like, I'm not really overly enticed by him no matter where he goes. But Kyle Freeland, we both like. Or Harrison Bader is a guy that I think we should talk about because he keeps getting – or you like Nick Pivetta, but Harrison Bader is a guy that I've had several comments on the YouTube channel already. Why didn't you guys talk about him yet? Another huge potential upside play.
Agreed. Big-time upside play right there.
So, and he plays in a great organization. I hate the Cardinals because they're constantly rooting the dreams of my Milwaukee Brewers, but they are one of the best-run franchises in professional sports. So people have a tendency to develop better there than they do in other situations.
Yep.
They're the anti-old-school Cleveland Browns. The Browns are exciting again, but for a long time, you were never excited about somebody going there.
No, this is true. Wow, Bryce Harper signed for 13 years.
What?
I know.
13 years, how much?
I don't know.
Wow. 13 years?
$330 million.
My God, dude. I'm in the wrong business. And I'm also not athletically talented enough to do anything like that. All right, so we've talked about a couple of these guys. I'm going to draft Harrison Bader. I need an outfielder. The other guy I'm really looking at right here would be Nick Pivetta, who is another pitcher that fits into my mold of higher upside guys, but you know darn well that you may be cutting them in the near future.
Yeah, very true.
Do you know what the deal is with Martinez being day-to-day?
I think he's out for – he thought he was out for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I hesitate to go to a pitcher in that situation or and when it comes back around to me, I could look at Kyle Freeland or Nick Pivetta, who are two young pitchers I like. I like to get younger pitchers who have an opportunity to be better. Go back to the whole idea of get depth and then know that you're going to cut some of these guys and you're going to pick some guys up.
Most definitely.
I don't know if you agree with this. I just think it's easier to hit home runs with pitchers in the later rounds than it is to grab a guy like Kyle Seager or Adam Eaton and think all of a sudden they're going to be round 4 talent.
Well, I just think you don't know who – I think hitters come out like that, but you don't know who they're going to be. It's not going to be the Seagers of the world. Like, look at last year, like Ozzie Albies. There are guys like that. You just have no idea who they're going to be.
Yeah, I think it's also with pitchers, if you miss a lot, if you're good at it, you can cut and chuck pitchers throughout the year and still be semi-competitive.
Yep.
You can't cut and chuck hitters.
No. It's true.
All right. You're coming up here. What are you trying to fill out your team with still?
I think it's pitching at this point. I mean, I need one more outfielder to utility.
Yeah, and I don't mind grabbing those guys like in the last round or two, and that's where maybe you swing for the fences. But also, it's okay to have a weak outfield spot because 3 weeks into the season, you're going to grab somebody who came out of nowhere, and he's going to be on.
That's right. Exactly. Like, that's where you got to be active on the waiver right at the beginning of the year. Like,
right.
Think about guys that have come out, like Thames a couple of years ago. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, I don't know. There's really no one standing out for me right here. I might go with Cody Allen because he's going to be closing for the Angels. But,
sure.
I mean, it's kind of ugly
Why
right now.
not?
It's pretty ugly right here. A lot of just question marks, which is why they're lashing to round 20 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. Do we want to do the entire draft?
Nah, let's do a couple more picks. We can talk about some of these guys lower. We'll just pick whoever we want, but maybe we can just walk through this draft and talk about guys. I do think Adam Eaton, we joked around about his injury prowess or proneness, I guess is a better word I was looking for.
Injury prowess.
Yeah, I think he is solid if you can keep him in there. I mean, this guy can hit. He just doesn't stay healthy. So that's your big issue with him.
This is so true. I mean, there's other guys like I'll give you a guy like Yohan Moncada. Like he's got major upside. Like and no one's going to draft him. Hopefully I go undrafted or very late, but, he's got big time upside if he turns it on. He's another guy that I think could, kind of fits that third-year mantra.
For sure. They like him a lot. He just needs to figure it all out, and that happens to athletes. It's tough to figure out when, but I always call it the game slows down and things start to become easier. I got a 10-year-old son. He's a wrestler. I watched that happen to him this year. He started to listen to his coaches. He started to get the technical moves. Whether it's your kid, high schooler, somebody in college, or somebody in the professionals, athletes just eventually start figuring things out.
This is so true.
Miguel Sano is down there. As we did a video on him, we like him a lot at 200. I think Jorge Polanco, I know you like the Twins. I think Jorge Polanco is a guy, if you're desperate for a shortstop later in the season or later in the draft, I like him.
I'm worried about them now because they got Marwin Gonzalez.
Yeah, well, they just inked Polanco to a long-term deal, so I have to assume that he's part of the future. Also, I think Marwin's in there to play 3/4 of the games, to be the super utility guy and move around and to give guys their day off weekly.
Yeah, true.
Josh Bell is the guy that we keep waiting to break out.
Yeah, keep waiting for it.
What are your thoughts on Braun in round 21?
Is his playing time guaranteed?
You're not going to get 160 games out of him. They're going to play him about 3 out of 4 days. But if you choose to draft a little depth on offense, Ryan Braun's numbers were down last year, but he had a historic bad luck for hitting the ball hard at people all season long. So, I mean, if you need an outfield filler, he doesn't really fit the mantra of a guy who's going to get better, but he plays in the middle of a good lineup. And you got to make sure you have some depth and make sure that you adjust your lineup. If you're lazy and you're not going to adjust your lineup, I wouldn't want him because he's going to sit 1 out of 4 games.
Agreed. And for me, I don't draft depth on offense because
either do I.
I'm not taking guys out on offense like that. Oh, wow, I'm on the clock and I'm going with Sano because he is on my queue list.
So. I know what that's all about. Joey Lucchesi at 212, I think, is an upside pick. I mean, I don't really care right now about who I'm drafting because it's a mock, but we like the idea of Lucchesi, who had some moments last year being better. Jake Bowers, right there, of your Cleveland Indians, first and outfield eligibility, highly regarded prospect.
I think Lucchesi is a great example of what you talked about, though, between Lester and Lucchesi. What you're going to get with Lester. Lucchesi, you might drop him in 3 weeks, or he might be 5 times more valuable than Lester in fantasy leagues.
Exactly. And I'd rather get 8 Lucchesis than 5 Lesters.
Agreed.
I don't really care who I'm drafting again here, but Sean Newcomb is another guy that we talked about. He fits that mold, 3rd-year pitcher. Had some great moments last year, looked like an ace. Had some moments that he looked like a young kid, to be expected of younger players.
Yep, exactly. I think on that note, we can pretty much wrap it up.
All right, guys. Always be safe. Wrap it up.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.